Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our Google Hangout. I'm Crystal Lauderdale. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at Florida Polytechnic University. We are here at Florida Poly to talk about the future of robots and machine intelligence. And we have a great panel joining us. We have Dr. Christy Hollingshead from the Florida Institute for Human and Machine Cognition. We have Dr. Ryan Integlia, who is one of our engineering professors in the College of Innovation and Technology. We have our admissions director, Lauren Willison, and our student life coordinator, Dana Kwiatkowski. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And I'd like to kick it off with Lauren. Lauren, if you could tell us first a little bit about yourself and also a little bit about Florida Polytechnic University.
Sure. Thank you, Crystal. Like she said, my name is Lauren, and I'm the Director of Admissions. So on behalf of everybody here at Florida Poly, we are happy that you have tuned in to hear more about robotics and machine intelligence. And we are the newest state university in Florida, and we are focused solely on STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And we are doing things a little bit differently here at Florida Poly in a sense that we are really working on hands-on learning. We're providing a hands-on learning environment for our students by introducing them to labs, within their first year of classes. We have students that have access to 3D printers, we have a supercomputer, we have cybersecurity labs, engineering labs. We really are focusing on getting our students in the labs and having that hands-on learning experience. And by doing that, we actually work a lot with industry partners. Some of our industry partners include Microsoft and Harris Corporation, and we actually have somebody joining us on our panel tonight that happens to be one of our industry partners from the Florida Institute for Human and Machine Cognition. We have Dr. Christy Hollingshead, and I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce herself and say hello to everybody.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm from IHMC. I'm the newest research scientist here. I joined IHMC about 3 months ago. And we're a public nonprofit research institute. Our mission is to liaise with all of the public Florida universities, not to be aligned with any particular one. So we do have a lot of collaborations across the entire state. We have 2 locations. Our headquarters is in Pensacola, where they have about 100 researchers. I'm in Ocala. We have about 15 or 20 researchers here, and we expect that to double in the next 3 to 5 years. So we're really still a startup here, especially in Ocala with a smaller set of researchers here. We work on bleeding edge technology in the field of artificial intelligence, particularly natural language processing, which is my own field. And that can mean a lot of things, ranging from ambient intelligence to robotics, to companions, to trust and belief and cognition. Really, we're looking to improve human performance and augmentation and extension.
That is awesome. And Christy, I want to start off by kicking a question to you, but before I do, I want to let all of the viewers know that they can submit questions through the Google Hangout, or you can also tweet them using the hashtag BOTTALKS, BOTTALKS, and we will take your questions. And to start it off, what do you think is the most significant advancement in robotics and machine intelligence today, Christy?
Well, I think recently there's been a lot of great work in adaptive technologies. So there's just constant adaptation going on all the time, both machines adapting to us. Think of your smartphone learning how many times you like to type the word ha, to my Nest thermostat learning that I like it at 68 degrees when I'm home, which is typically just in the evenings. To, on the other hand, humans adapting to machines, which we're actually a bit better at it than machines are to adapting to us. So when I use Siri to text someone, do I speak naturally? No, I speak a little brokenly because that's the best way to get my speech recognized properly.
That is really interesting, and a great lead into, I want to throw one to Ryan. Ryan, can you tell us about some of the robotics breakthroughs that students are working on at Florida Poly?
They're looking at quite a few, actually, and from the graduate and undergraduate level. At the undergraduate level, they're looking at subjects for entertainment. One of the groups is doing robotics. It's more of a student group for extracurricular, and they do a lot of they talk about a lot of fun things, and they've been able to do a little bit some of the applications with integrating robotics into the 3D printing space, more like rapid prototyping with integrated robotic devices to pick and place parts across multiple systems for scalability. That's a great project that I'm glad is going forward. Another good one is how they're using robotics for kind of medical diagnostic delivery. And one of the projects is moving down that path, and they've made some good progress too. At the graduate level, some students are looking at softbotics or soft robotics, integrating kind of intelligent systems into the mechanisms that allow these reactions at the soft interfaces between different systems in the robotic to work together. And then, of course, some of the nearest neighbors with UAV structures and swarm concepts, I think, are nice to see as well.
Thanks, Ryan. And I'm going to ask this up front, but will you tell us a little bit about what you're doing as a professor at Florida Poly, a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My background is nanotechnology, but really nanophotonic devices and electro-optics and alternative energy for energy efficiency. I also did work with kind of an immersive technology that I'm trying to evolve here through mesh network applications and distributed sensing. So I'm hoping that the students are going to catch on to this and move forward, and they've done some interesting work already through some of the open protocols, like things evolved out of UC Berkeley and projects that are kind of evolving from everywhere using a Batman protocol. So it's nice to see everybody being enthusiastic about that. My connection to the university is in both colleges, from engineering and innovation and technology. I'm hoping to cross the health informatics and the digital system integration and the hybrid system kind of concepts from a device integration, part of integration point of view, to help students do things that they care about.
That's awesome.
Does that work?
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, that does work. Thank you. And I want to throw a question to Lauren and Dana. Actually, we have a question from Twitter from Maria Aurelis Ray, who wants to know what types of departments Florida Poly has. And Ryan, you might be able to chime in on this well.
In departments, what kind of, all of our departments as far as faculty departments, or?
I am going to make the assumption that she's asking about our academic programs and departments.
Yeah. So we have things like electrical engineering, computer engineering, mechanical and industrial. These are very strong programs, but they're complemented by cybersecurity and health informatics in the College of Innovation and Technology, as well as logistics and supply chain, big data, and I think one of the things we're hoping to do is use things like motion intelligence and some of the more discrete concentrations to help bridge and create interdisciplinary efforts from whether it be from magnetics or through applications as sensors in another space to improve the way we get data, or to allow for analytics to cross boundaries in how we understand that data, and then of course to create more accessible technology, to use mobile health systems through mobile health informatics to carry a very interdisciplinary process for people who might not have access to clinics or healthcare resources nearby, and they use their smartphone or their mobile device to collect data about any health issues they might have. So these are the kinds of thinking that we could pursue as we go down various roads with all these different programs and concentrations.
Thanks, Ryan.
Does that help?
Let's do a quick lightning round question and get some answers from everybody. What would you say your ideal student and/or future employee looks like, just in a few words or less? And let's start with Dana.
Definitely having strong leadership skills and abilities.
Great. Christy, what about you?
Someone who's willing to get stuff done.
Okay. Lauren?
A passion for engineering and technology.
All right. And Ryan, what about you?
I think having a positive attitude, wanting to work collaboratively, keeping things positive, and being innovative.
Okay, thanks. I want to expand on this a little bit more, and maybe Dana and Lauren can help with this. Starting with you, Dana. Tell us a little bit more about what you're looking for in future scientists, inventors, and engineers at Florida Poly, and tell us a little bit about yourself as Student Life Coordinator.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dana. I'm the Student Life Coordinator at Florida Poly, and in my capacity at the university, I work with all the clubs and organizations, student government, things like that. And what I'd be looking for is somebody who's really driven, wants to be a go-getter, and kind of separate themselves from the pack. So here at the university, we do things differently. We're also doing things from the ground up. So having an idea for, let's say, a club or an organization, having this idea, coming up with the steps that you need to take to make your club a reality, and then following through. I think that those types of skills and that type of work ethic is something that's going to be incredibly transferable into the working field and only kind of help you succeed in life in general.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dana. And Lauren, I know you probably have some additions to that.
Yes. You know, when we're looking for students who are really excited about math and science and looking for new ways to really impact our world with technology and engineering. And ways of doing that, you know, by starting this brand new university and really wanting to be on the ground floor of something and taking Florida Poly from, you know, the ground up. So really starting our programs and starting this brand new university.
Okay, thank you. We have a question on the side here that seems to be gaining in popularity, and it's kind of a fun question. I'm going to ask Christy and Ryan to respond. So in the new movie Chappie, a robot is created with human emotion. Is this even possible? And so, let's start with Christy.
Okay. So I think it's certainly possible to fake the emotion. I think that we're definitely not at the point yet that we can really say that we've created robots with actual human emotion. I think that takes more than the level of artificial intelligence that we've reached. People have been working on this since, I don't know, the 50s. So it'll be interesting. There's certainly here we're working on looking at robots and trust, or machines and trust. So do you trust Siri to give you the right answer? Do you trust Google to have the right information? Do you trust the autopilot on a plane to do the correct thing? Do you trust it when you shouldn't? So that's starting to approach emotion, but I don't think we're actually there yet.
Ryan, what do you think?
I tend to agree. I think that we're not there, and I think unfortunately the direction is that the only emotion that we're going to get out of it is confusion. Like I mentioned before, I think that what that means is that we're going to accumulate such a complex system or a convergence of complex systems that it's beyond the scope of any one individual or maybe even group of individuals to discern all its function. And so since it's out of our scope or our ability to understand at that point, at that hypothetical point in the future, it might appear to be emotion, but it, you know, for all intents and purposes will be just a lot of accumulated complexity. That's just, and of course, since we're talking in the future, it's an opinion. At least I hope everybody looks at it that way.
Thanks. Ryan, while I have you, actually, another question on the side from Mitchell Stein that is a popular one is, what is our supercomputer here at Florida Poly actually used for?
So basically, we're using it for supporting course operations with virtual machines, as well as running different projects that groups are working on. Some of the different visual projects are displaying information that's pulled down and processed from the web, like weather data and traffic data, just to run demonstrations. And then there's also projects that are kind of interesting where students are working to build mini supercomputers out of Raspberry Pis. So kind of this Raspberry Pi supercomputer that's mobile and has a lot of potential to maybe change the way we look at accessible supercomputing. So based off of the Raspberry Pi structure, device structure. So what it means is you might be able to build your own supercomputer and carry it around with you. In this case, the students built all the structure for the supercomputer out of 3D printed parts that they used to connect all the little computers inside together with. So that was kind of fun. Does that kind of get where you want to go?
Yes, I think that gets where we want to go. And maybe for the folks like me, can you explain what a Raspberry Pi is? Because, you know, I got very excited when you were telling me about this earlier, and I thought it was dessert.
Yeah, Raspberry Pi, it doesn't taste as good as actual Raspberry Pi. In fact, I strongly recommend that you don't eat it and you wash your hands after touching it. But it's a little tiny computer with an older processor that's kind of placed in this little green printed circuit board with a bunch of other components like memory and lots of connectivity, and a lot of open source support forums from Raspberry Pi, a UK-based organization that help provide this open source platform like Arduino and BeagleBoard Bone that gives you a lot of people and the general public access to technology at a level where people can explore it together at its basic operations, you know, from microcomputing to microcontrols to various other, you know, integrated systems.
Thanks, Ryan. We have another question that actually several people have asked, it looks like. Nicholas Springett posed it. What robotic clubs are at the school today? And actually, I'm guessing, Dana, you might be able to help us with this one as a student life coordinator.
Yeah, so Ryan kind of touched on this briefly. There's an Artbotics club as well as a general robotics club, and I believe part of the robotics club, some of you might be familiar with like the battle bots, so building robots to then like fight each other in certain competitions. Right now, those are the two main robotics-based clubs that we've got on our campus.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm pulling up a question here. Nicholas also follows up, and I think this one is for Ryan. Would students be able to use things like Raspberry Pi in class?
Yes.
Or in the robotics club?
Yes, as far as I know, they're accessible to all students. And what I've done is integrate it directly into the courses that I'm operating. It's something that I wanted to do from the very beginning. You know, I discussed a lot of these things with some of the other faculty, like Dr. Saladin and Dr. Vargas, and you know, Raspberry Pi is a kind of a nice, accessible platform as well as Arduino. Very accessible, very well supported, lots of communities. My objectives for using these is try to get students the ability to connect sensors and other robotic systems so that they can explore their ability to control these things and put things together that they might imagine and then take it into reality. My drive is always to help the students care about what they're doing. I prefer them to drive the project ideas, and then the teaching assistants and myself guide them in the right direction to make those ideas become some form of reality, something close to what they wanted within the scope of the course. And that makes me feel good, because then I know that they kind of care about, like I said, what they're doing. Does that seem like a good answer?
Thanks, Ryan.
Well,
yes, that answers the question, I think. I want to let's do another lightning round and get some thoughts from all of you. What is the next big project that you or your organization are kicking off in 2015 in the coming year? And let's start with Dana here.
So one of the big things that is coming up in April is Earth Day. So I'm working with students on developing a special type of competition that all the different concentrations can work on incorporating technology with sustainability and developing ways that you can use your major and use what you're learning in your classes to kind of think green, as well as getting our industry partners and in on this, as well as displaying and highlighting the technology that they might be using in the field today that would be, STEM related.
Thanks, Dana. Christy, what about you? What is a big project that you're kicking off in 2015?
I've lately really been focusing on examining language in big data. Twitter is sort of the canonical example of that right now. And so last year we conducted a study determining whether or not we could figure out whether somebody who's posting on Twitter has depression, PTSD, bipolar, or SAD. And we've added schizophrenia and ALS to the set that we're looking at this year. So I'm excited to be able to make some advancements in detecting and then potentially helping to diagnose mental health problems.
Thanks, Christy. Lauren, what about you? Big projects for 2015?
Sure. Well, being in the admissions office, our biggest project is enrolling our upcoming class for 2015. So the future engineers and students that are studying technology, we're going to be enrolling them for this fall coming up. So
it's a big deal. And and Ryan, what about you?
My list is a bit long, but I'm hoping to actually maybe get a chance to work with Dana on the sustainability technology competition. I think that's great. I love that. So thank you, Dana. I think one of the things that I'm going to try to help move forward is some hackathon initiatives with some other faculty like Dr. Saladin and maybe a few others if they're available. And we'll see how that goes. But some of the other subjects are just lab development, making sure that more resources are available to students, some test beds that need to go up for things, applications like in robotics and UAV control, distributed control. Hopefully some test beds that will enable some application development in sensor networks. These I feel are very appropriate for the university. Then some renewable energy projects and some kind of embedded systems, embedded control projects. One of the nice things I think we're going to be able to do, like I said, is some biomedical device applications at a user diagnostic level, so kind of mobile health technology. There's a couple of student groups going down that road, which is nice. And then of course the blimp teams. The blimp teams are going to be very interesting. We'll see where they go. I like that stuff a lot, as well as some of the motorized longboards and all these other great project trends that I've been seeing develop at the university.
Thanks, Ryan. And I'm going to go a little off script from the questions that we're receiving on the side here, because I think you touched on something that's really interesting going on. And Dana, maybe you can expand on this. Since we are in our first year and students coming in are still shaping the culture of the university, they kind of have an opportunity to build some of these clubs and these experiences from the ground up. And Dana, maybe you can talk a little bit about that opportunity.
You mean just how to start a club?
Yeah, how students are starting clubs, how they're going about shaping things here, and how they can kind of
So the biggest thing that I get with students is I have this idea for a club, or I've seen this at other universities and colleges. How can we make this happen here at Florida Poly? I think it would be great. It's going to be right online with STEM. It's going to be really beneficial. It's going to be a lot of fun. How can we make this happen? And the biggest step, I tell students is getting 10 people. Okay, that's all it takes to start a club on campus. It's minimum 10 students, and getting together and starting to meet to talk about what the goals of the club are going to be. How is it going to benefit your members to be a part of this club? What's the mission? You know, how's it going to benefit the students at the university? How's it going to benefit the university? So essentially what I want all the students to be thinking about is, why is my club important? Because even if you think it's just for fun, even if it's, you know, we've got a League of Legends club on campus, even if you think it might just be something so small like that, it serves a greater purpose. So start thinking about how your club might be used to shape the student body, and you know how you can benefit that and how you can help other students benefit from your ideas, and start getting together and meeting about it. That's the biggest thing, is taking your ideas and bringing them to other people to formulate deeper conversations and talk about how you can start developing the culture here at Florida Poly.
Thanks, Dana. Since we had a couple of questions from students related to clubs, I thought that might be a nice thing to touch on. I want to remind everyone who's watching that you can send questions through the Google Hangout, or you can tweet them using hashtag BotTalks, and we will take them. We do have a lot of questions coming in. We're going to try to get to all of them. So kicking to another question from viewers, maybe Ryan and Christy can chime in on this, and we'll start with Christy. What are your thoughts on the current status of schizophrenic computers? And I have to say, I'm going on faith. I haven't heard of a schizophrenic computer, and I'm hoping you guys have.
So I saw that question pop up on the list, and maybe shockingly, I actually hadn't heard of schizophrenic computers, so I looked it up real quick. And I had actually heard of the project that they're based on, the Discern project, which looks at how people tell stories and retell stories, which is actually a big part of what we do for a lot of our mental health work, is how people tell stories, how people talk, how they use language. But I'm afraid that is all that I know about schizophrenic computers. I don't know if maybe Ryan knows more.
I can pretend to know more, but I think it sounds like a fun subject. I think it sounds like it also has a lot of very open to interpretation, as my guess, since I think the direct correlation between schizophrenia and computing may be a tough one. And I think, but it sounds like if you could figure it out, you might be able to do some unusual things.
I think it's an interesting idea to try and model mental health or cognitive state using computers, and so maybe it's something we might try looking at for other cognitive disorders.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think one thing to keep in mind is so sleep and computing. Now that might be a fun way to start, and you eventually get to some of the more complicated things. So computing and sleep and people's sleep patterns and how they sleep. If you start somewhere small, you might end up getting somewhere much more complicated, like schizophrenia. So.
Thanks, you guys. And Christy, very impressed with your quick research there. We have another. What was that?
Smartphones for the win.
We have another question that, Ryan, I'm hoping that you can help with. It's specific to our nanotechnology program. And the question is, what is the current most focused path for nanotechnology in terms of Florida Poly? Are batteries and microprocessors at the center, and will Florida finally have an institution that broadens the technological study horizon beyond space? So maybe you can talk a little bit about our core focus.
So I would approach this question from an electrical engineering point of view, from a nanoscale device, right? And it's really just about scalability. The logic and the physical properties are going to be a good, let's say, starting point to learn how you will achieve scalability. The physical properties change, of course, as you change the scale, but you know, eventually we'll get to a point where the students and their ambitions will align with the reality of what's available to them. And I think one of the nice things that I see is about medicine, things about energy, and so where I hope to see these efforts go is that we'll also see something around sustainability and how we might clean water using new types of technology at the nanoscale. How we might introduce more efficient systems so that way we need to use less energy. Or maybe we can create new types of energy storage mechanisms that change the way we access energy. You know, in the same ways we might introduce different ways medicine is available. You know, the nice things that I hope to find in the future for these students is fabrication, their ability to realize some of these ideas and into a form that they can show others, where they can create something and make it be the core of or the body of their work as they leave the university. So they can carry it with them like a little picture or a video or an active video resume that carries everything that they've done into a kind of a semi-live feed for whoever wants to talk with them about their background.
Thanks, Ryan. And I think this is a question that everyone can chime in on, but I will start with Christy, actually, as someone who is in industry. What classes do you recommend students take if they are pursuing a robotics career?
Gosh, that's a great question because I tend to be on the softer side. I'll say, you know, the sort of the classic any kind of programming class. But also I'll say that because my field is full of people from everywhere, we have biologists, physicists, mathematicians, linguists, computer scientists as well. Take what's interesting. Take what you have a passion for, and just know that what you need to do is learn to apply that knowledge where you can.
That's really good advice. Lauren, do you want to expand on that?
Absolutely. When I'm talking to students who are in high school and they have the opportunity to take different math classes in order to graduate, my recommendation is always to take pre-calculus if it's available to you, if you have the opportunity to take calculus. The science classes that you're taking should be chemistry, physics. Make sure that you're doing all of those science and math classes that you can take while you're in high school. If you have the ability to take the advanced placement or the IB program, or if you have any tracks at your school that are specific to engineering or computer science, those are really going to give you, you know, the best foundation in order to attend a university like Florida Poly.
Also good advice. And Ryan, would you add anything to that for anyone who really wants to pursue robotics as a career?
Yeah, I think that there are things like vision, robotics vision. There's obviously you have to get through a lot of programming and math, but understanding it's actually a very interdisciplinary program. If you're looking holistically at a robotic system, it's electrical systems, it's computer systems, it's mechanical systems, it's computer science, it's materials, it's the sensors themselves cross many disciplines sometimes. So if you look at it more than just as robotics, then we understand that you'll end up focusing on some aspect of it. Maybe it's the vision, maybe it's the mechanics of the robot, maybe it's the artificial intelligence that you might try to develop. Maybe it's the sensing systems, the sensing response. Maybe it's an integration of the computing and the embedded systems with the mechanical operations. So once you know where you're going, you've built a good foundation of electronics and mechanics and computer science. You'll be able to take steps forward into where you'd like to specify, and that focal point will drive a lot of your classes.
Thanks, Ryan. And we've received a question that is a little bit popular here, and it kind of links into this. Is it possible for someone to double major? For example, someone specifically interested in computer engineering and computer science. And if you don't mind, Ryan, while I have you, maybe you can quickly differentiate the two, because not everyone might understand the difference.
So, computer engineering is different for different universities depending on what kind of courses they offer. But here we have some specializations in digital logic design, embedded system design, and kind of the machine intelligence. But we also see how robotics can stem from this from a computer engineering point of view, computer vision, and so on and so forth. But each of these, except for maybe digital logic design, can connect easily to the computer science field because they involve a lot of programming. It's the idea that you have to be able to control the hardware that you're creating. From an architecture point of view, once you've architected the design, you have to be able to make it kind of come to life, right? And so where it starts to come to life is usually with the software control that people create through their programming skills. And again, that really seems to come from the computer science side. So the blend is good because in the computer science, in this university we see cybersecurity and gaming, and I'd say that you could even support other types of applications in the computer science world at this university. And each of those would involve or could involve embedded systems through biometrics or embedded systems through managing sensors, and then of course they cross other disciplines as well. Does that help?
I think that helps. Yes. And Lauren, as as our admissions director, is that something that students are able to do here at Florida Poly? Is to double major, I mean?
Yes, students are able to dual major if they prefer. However, I always let students know that when you do double major, it does take you longer to graduate. So you will be taking specific courses for computer engineering and for computer science. They are completely different programs, even though they may have similar concepts and similar things that kind of overlap. It will take a little bit longer for you to graduate if you dual major.
Thanks, Lauren. So I'm going to pick up a question from Julie. I think it's Julie Giles or Julie Giles here. It's kind of a fun thing to think about, very sci-fi. Christy, Ryan, and anyone who wants to chime in, do you think that we will ever have a bot-on-bot war someday? I feel like it might cause a modern-day arms race, and do you think that that could cause another Cold War? Very interesting. Christy, maybe you can take this first. What do you think?
I mean, I think that that's already going on with cyber warfare. I mean, that's really, in many ways, there's already a cyber arms race, Cold War going on. It's maybe not so obvious as computers, robots, using swords against each other, but I think we're there.
Interesting. Ryan, what do you think?
No, I agree. From a virtual robot to an actual robot, it's emerging, and the actual presence of physical robots coming head to head. We also have the pressure from our society that says, boots on the ground may not be what everybody wants, and maybe the middle ground might be, okay, well, send robot systems in first. And if there's some serious issue that can't be managed with diplomacy, and I would hope that we never get to that point. But we know the propensity to say, well, why, if we're being pulled into some kind of conflict without our choice, why would we sacrifice the people that make up our community? So if we have an option, I would say that society will probably generally migrate towards that other option.
Thanks,
Since
Ryan.
okay.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
I think that helps. You know, actually, I'll do this because Christy kind of touched on it, and you did too. It sounds to me like the question was certainly thinking of, you know, maybe the offensive side of war, but one of the rising majors at all universities, and it's true at Florida Poly, is cybersecurity, which is more on the defensive side. Maybe you guys could talk a little bit about the importance of that as a growing profession.
Well, it's got a negative employment rate. In the Washington, D.C. area, I believe it's -6%, I think. So, meaning that there's more jobs than people. So from a job perspective, it's a pretty good area to look in. And then, and I know the government is very active in trying to get universities and other types of entities that support education to engage their student and teacher community in training programs to make them incorporate these concepts into their education platform so that they can build out the cybersecurity, in essence, workforce. So it's a very real opportunity.
Absolutely.
And Christy, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, it's a super hot field, lots of jobs. I actually just moved from the DC area, so I'm well aware of cybersecurity as a very strong field to be interested in. And I think that that's only going to continue as we sort of continue to adapt to computers and we sort of live our lives more and more in the cyber world. And so cybersecurity is just going to be more and more popular and needed.
Thank you. I think we have time for a couple more questions, and one has been floating to the top here. It's a little bit off topic, but certainly a big deal for Florida Poly. So I'm going to ask everyone, we'll do it a little bit lightning round style. What would be your ideal Florida Poly mascot? Starting with Dana.
Oh man, there's a lot of good ideas floating around on campus right now, but I'd have to say probably Poly Pioneers.
Poly Pioneers. Christy, if you have any ideas off the top of your head for us, what do you think?
Oh man, I haven't even thought about mascots in years. Dana, what were some of the other options? Can I have multiple choice?
I mean, sure. So some of the bigger hitters were the Hydras, which is like the mythological creature from like Greek mythology. The monster with the multiple heads that Hercules was like cutting off, as well as oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Crystal.
I'll help you out.
I'll go for that.
What was that,
You're
Christy?
deciding?
You're voting for the Hydra?
Yep.
All right. Lauren, do you have any favorites out there?
You know, I think that they're all very unique. Definitely the mascots that the students are debating over right now are things that I probably never would have even thought of. So I'm not sure. I'm not partial to just one. I think that the students will decide something wonderful and will be very representative of Florida Poly. So.
Thanks. And Ryan, what about you? Any favorites?
Well, you know, I think they're like Lauren said, there are probably a lot of good ones. I was leaning towards Prometheus, you know, but you know, that's just me. I thought it would have been a very appropriate choice. A little sad it wasn't one of the options. But that's okay. I'll get over it.
So for anyone watching who doesn't know, actually one of the great things that our inaugural class is getting to do right now is actually pick the university's mascot, and students have come up with an array of concepts, and we're going through a voting process. So in early March, students are going to vote on their favorite concepts, and on April 22nd, we'll reveal the university's mascot. So it's something fun that we're doing, and stay tuned. And it's been more than just a creative process, it's also been a hands-on learning process for students. So we have time for one more question, and I want to put it out there to everyone. What kinds of jobs do you think Florida Poly students can expect when they graduate? There are a lot out there, and we've touched on a number of topics, not just robotics and machine intelligence, but also nanotechnology and cybersecurity. So maybe touch on what you think is one or two of the most exciting jobs out there that Florida Poly students have a chance to dive into when they graduate. Starting with Dana.
I definitely think the cybersecurity route is a really strong career field right now. I actually just spoke with a student last week who went to a conference over in Tampa about cybersecurity and ethical hacking, and he came back to me with all these brochures of all these different companies, and the FBI was there, and everybody was there looking for potential students that were wanting to pursue these careers, because the jobs are definitely there. They just need the students.
Thank you. Chrissy, what do you think? What are some of the most exciting jobs there? And you might be able to tell us, too, what companies maybe are on the rise that students should be looking for when they're thinking about jobs.
Sure. So the thing with technology, right, is that it's everywhere, and it's just going to be more so in the coming years. So, with a technological degree, you're going to be able to find any kind of job anywhere. Just think about, the applications that you can do. So in healthcare is huge. We have the baby boomers retiring and getting, to be much, much older. They need a lot of help, and technology can help with that. That's my personal field, so I thought I'd push that for a second. In general, sort of the idea of big data and data analysis. So I'll say that data scientist is a great career choice. It's very hot right now, and that term can be very wide. So it's sort of ambiguous what kind of data you'd be looking at, what kind of data analysis you'd be running. But it's also really fun. I really like sort of the data scientist types of jobs that are out there. So the really big companies that you could be looking for are obviously Google, IBM, Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, actually, Yahoo, Nuance. There are any number of others, but also startups. I mean, that's going to continue to be huge. And I'll also give a plug for industrial research labs like IHMC, where we do a lot of fun things working with government like DARPA, NSF, and NIH.
Thank you. Lauren, what about you? Jobs that are most exciting for Florida Poly graduates?
I would have to agree with Christy in that, the possibilities are endless. There's so many opportunities for our students, and there are going to be opportunities that we don't even know exist at this point for our students and these programs that they're going into. They have the ability to do many different things with their degrees. I think one of the most interesting industries that's really up and coming, and there's going to be a lot of jobs coming up in these fields, is within the big data, the cloud virtualization, and within health informatics. So within our advanced technology program, there's definitely going to be some growth in those career fields. So very exciting opportunities and possibilities for our students.
Awesome.
So,
and
go ahead.
last but not least, Ryan. No, go right ahead.
No, sorry to jump ahead. I apologize. Wearable technology, Internet of Things, these types of things are going to be everywhere, and we're going to see how all these types of technologies are going to amplify the impact of robotics and security and health informatics and gaming and almost anything we can think of, from finance, digital currencies, digital commodities, all the way through to how we might understand immersive environments. The thing that I think is going to be the most important is what makes these things work. the guts of all the stuff that makes it happen is the computer technology or the electrical engineering bits and pieces inside, maybe the fabrication, the materials that make up the actual devices, the devices themselves, the architecture for the devices, the programming. So these things, they're going to amplify along with it the demand for embedded system engineers or software designers or people who can deal with fabrication or device integration, or when you try to integrate things that normally aren't together and you have to hybridize them. So you have this hybrid digital systems that start to emerge. Organic and inorganic technologies are starting to come about with the idea that we want to reduce the life cycle of the technology, how long it stays in the dump. If we're going to throw our cell phone away in 2 years, and it's going to last in the dump for the next 100,000, 500,000 years, in some discernible form, maybe we want to plan a little better. So these kinds of things are going to come up. Agritech, it's a very fast-moving world. And as we think about all these things, the path to a good opportunity is being prepared. If you are doing great work during your education process, then you will get where you want to go. It's just about being passionate, being dedicated, reviewing the content that is associated with what your pursuits are, the math, the science, the engineering, the applications, understanding the industry's effect, and it'll work out.
Thanks, Ryan. And we are at the end of our time, unfortunately. We've gotten so many questions. If we did not get a chance to answer your question, I'm sorry, but please feel free to email info@flpoly.org, and we will try to respond and also put you in touch with the professor or the admissions team to help answer your question. Also, I wanted to remind everyone that this is the first of 3 spring virtual events that we are going to have. The next one is scheduled for March 17th. And it'll be a discussion similar to this one, so we hope you'll join us. And lastly, I want to thank our panelists. Thank you so much, Dr. Christy Hollingshead, Dr. Ryan Integlia, Dana Kwiatkowski, and Lauren Willison. Have a good night, everyone.
You're welcome.